June 12, 2021, 11:47 p.m. Ronald Reed Gary had made exactly one good decision in his entire 34 years of life, and it was happening at 70 miles per hour on a dark stretch of Highway 17. He was leaving. The Aston Martin's engine screamed as he pushed it harder, the Charleston night blurring past his windows. Behind him, 3 miles back, 200 people were probably still drinking champagne at his engagement party. Still celebrating a wedding that was never going to happen. Still pretending not to notice that the groom had walked out of his own celebration, gotten in his car, and driven away. Victoria would be furious. Her mother would be scandalized. The society pages would have a field day. Ronald pressed harder on the accelerator and felt something close to relief. The curve appeared too fast. He saw it, registered the sharp turn, the warning sign, the darkness beyond the shoulder, but his hands were shaking and his mind was somewhere else and the Aston Martin was going too damn fast. He jerked the wheel. The world turned sideways. Metal screamed. Glass shattered. His head cracked against something hard. The car rolled once, twice, and came to rest on its side in a ditch, steam hissing from the crushed hood. Ronald tasted blood. His vision swam. Pain radiated from his ribs, his head, his left arm that was bent at an angle that wasn't right. The airbag had deployed, pressed against his chest like a suffocating cloud. He couldn't move. Somewhere far away, he heard sirens. I'm going to die in a ditch fleeing my own engagement party, he thought, and almost laughed except breathing hurt too much. The sirens grew louder. Time did something strange, stretched and compressed simultaneously. He heard voices. Saw lights. Felt hands reaching through the shattered window. Sir, can you hear me? Sir, stay with me. The voice was calm. Female. Steady as a heartbeat. Ronald's eyes tried to focus. All he could see through the haze of pain and shock was a silhouette backlit by emergency lights. Dark skin. Focused eyes. Hands that moved with absolute confidence. What's your name? The voice asked. Ronald. It came out as a whisper. Ronald, I'm Jessica. I'm a paramedic. You've been in an accident, but you're going to be okay. I need you to stay still for me. Can you do that? He tried to nod. Everything hurt. Her hands were on his neck, stabilizing. Possible spinal injury, she called to someone else. Let's get the collar on him. Careful with the extraction. More hands. More voices. But the only one Ronald could focus on was hers. You're doing great, Ronald. Keep breathing for me. Nice and slow. He wanted to see her face clearly, but his vision kept blurring. Dark eyes. That's all he could make out. Dark eyes that saw him completely, not the billionaire, not the CEO, not the playboy the tabloids loved to photograph. Just a man bleeding in a wrecked car who needed help. Jessica, he whispered. I'm right here. Not going anywhere. His chest felt tight. Not just from the injuries. From something else. Something that made no sense while he was possibly dying in a ditch but felt more real than anything he'd experienced in years. Time? Jessica called out. 6 minutes since arrival, another voice responded. He's going into shock. We need to move now. Ronald felt himself being lifted. The world tilted again. He tried to keep his eyes open, tried to hold on to the sound of her voice, the feeling of her steady hands. Stay with me, Ronald. But the darkness was pulling him under. The last thing he heard was her voice, you're going to be okay. I promise. And for the first time in years, Ronald believed something completely. March 15, 2024, 7:30 p.m. Ronald Reed Gary stood in the ballroom of the Charleston Harbor Resort, a glass of untouched bourbon in his hand, and tried to remember why he kept putting himself through these events. The fundraiser for Charleston's first responders was important. He knew that. He'd personally donated $2 million to the cause. Gary Technologies had built the new dispatch system pro bono. He believed in the work. But 3 years later, these events still felt like searching for a ghost. You're doing that thing again, Trent Caldwell said, appearing at his elbow. His best friend and CFO had the annoying habit of reading his mind. The scanning thing. Looking for someone who isn't here. Ronald took a sip of bourbon he didn't want. I'm networking. You're obsessing. It's been 3 years, Trent. Exactly my point. Trent's voice softened. Brother, you don't even know if she still lives in Charleston. You don't know if she's single. You barely saw her face that night. You were half dead. I know her name. I know her voice. I know she saved my life in 6 minutes. Ronald set down the glass with more force than necessary. And I know that in 3 years, I haven't been able to forget her. Trent sighed. You changed your entire life for a woman you met for 6 minutes while bleeding out in a car wreck. You realize how that sounds? Ronald did. He'd heard variations of this speech from Trent at least 100 times. From his lawyers. From the therapist he'd seen after calling off the engagement. From Victoria herself, in one of their final conversations. "You're chasing a fantasy," they all said. "You built her up in your mind. She was just doing her job." But they were wrong. That night had changed everything. In those 6 minutes, Jessica, whose last name he didn't know, whose face he barely remembered, had shown him what real strength looked like. What calm competence in the face of crisis meant. What it felt like to be seen as human, not as a bank account or a headline or a strategic marriage prospect. He'd woken up in the hospital the next morning and called off his engagement. Within a month, he'd started the first responder initiative. Within 6 months, he'd stopped dating entirely. He'd been looking for her ever since. "She's here," Ronald said quietly. Trent blinked. "What?" "Not here specifically. But somewhere in Charleston. I can feel it." "That's not how reality works, man." Before Ronald could respond, the lights dimmed. The MC took the stage to introduce the evening speakers, fire chiefs, police commissioners, and a panel of first responders who would share their stories. Ronald had heard these speeches before. He listened anyway, scanning the crowd out of habit more than hope. The third speaker was introduced, Jessica Williams, lead paramedic with Charleston Fire and Rescue, 13 years of service. Ronald's head snapped up so fast his neck cracked. Walking onto the stage was a woman in a simple black dress, her dark hair pulled back in a neat bun. She moved with quiet confidence, acknowledging the applause with a slight smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. His heart stopped. 3 years. 1,000 first responder events. Hundreds of thousands spent on private investigators who'd found nothing. And she'd been here, in Charleston, the entire time. "Ronald?" Trent's voice sounded far away. "You okay? You look like you've seen a—" "That's her." The certainty hit him like physical force. He couldn't explain it. Her face was different from the shadowy memory he'd carried, clearer, older, more beautiful than any fantasy he'd constructed. But her voice. 3 years ago, Jessica was saying into the microphone, her voice steady and warm, "I responded to a single-vehicle accident on Highway 17. The driver was unconscious, trapped, going into shock. We had minutes to extract him safely." That voice. The same voice that had pulled him back from the edge. The same calm certainty that had promised he'd be okay. Ronald was moving before he realized it, weaving through the crowd toward the stage. "And that's why rapid response time is so critical," Jessica concluded. 6 minutes can mean the difference between life and death. "Thank you." The applause was thunderous. Ronald barely heard it. He was focused entirely on her as she stepped off the stage, immediately surrounded by well-wishers and colleagues. He hung back, suddenly uncertain. 3 years he'd been searching. 3 years of building up this moment in his mind. And now that she was 20 feet away, he didn't know what to say. "Hi, you saved my life 3 years ago and I've been obsessed with you ever since," seemed like a poor opening line. The crowd around her thinned. She was talking to another woman in an EMT uniform, laughing at something, her whole face transforming with genuine joy. Ronald's chest tightened. She started to move toward the bar, and his legs made the decision his brain couldn't. "Jessica." She turned. Up close, she was even more striking, high cheekbones, warm brown skin, dark eyes that assessed him with the same capable attention he remembered. There was silver threaded through the hair at her temples that hadn't been there 3 years ago. Laugh lines around her eyes. A small scar on her chin. She was real. Not a fantasy. Not a ghost. Yes? Her smile was polite but distant. The expression of someone at a professional event greeting a stranger. "Can I help you?" She didn't recognize him. Of course she didn't. His face had been a mess that night, cuts, swelling, blood. He'd been barely conscious. And she'd probably saved hundreds of people since then. "I?" Ronald's mind went blank. "Your speech was incredible." "Thank you." The polite smile remained. She was already starting to turn away. "June 12, 2021, he said quickly. "Highway 17. Single vehicle accident. Aston Martin." Jessica froze. Turned back slowly. Her eyes narrowed, really looking at him now. "The engagement party. You remember." "I remember the call." Her voice had shifted, more careful now, professional. "Massive property damage. Driver fled the scene of his own engagement party, nearly killed himself. Required extraction and emergency transport." She paused. "You're him. Ronald Gary. I know who you are." There was something in her tone he couldn't read. "Your company built our new dispatch system. You're Jessica Williams. Lead paramedic, Charleston Fire and Rescue." She crossed her arms. "The last time I saw you, you were unconscious in a hospital bed. You look better. You saved my life. I was doing my job. In 6 minutes." Jessica's expression flickered, surprise, maybe, that he remembered that detail. You were in shock. Time probably felt different. You told me your name. You told me I'd be okay. You promised. Standard protocol for calming patients. But her voice had softened slightly. Ronald took a breath. 3 years of searching. He had one chance to not sound like a complete lunatic. I've been looking for you, he said quietly. For 3 years. Jessica's eyes widened. Excuse me? I only knew your first name. Jessica. Charleston EMT. I hired investigators. I attended every first responder event in the state. I started the first responder initiative hoping somehow. He stopped. This was coming out all wrong. I sound insane. Little bit, yeah. But she hadn't walked away. That night changed my life. I called off my engagement the next morning. I changed everything about who I was, how I lived. And I kept thinking, I needed to find the person who saved me. To say thank you. To see if what I felt in those 6 minutes was real. Jessica studied him for a long moment. Her expression was unreadable. EMT training, probably, learning to keep emotions controlled in crisis. Mr. Gary. Ronald. She said it like she was testing the weight of it. I'm glad you're okay. Truly. And I'm glad that night was a turning point for you. But I save people. It's what I do. It doesn't mean. She trailed off as someone called her name across the ballroom. Jessica. We're getting photos with the donors. She glanced back, then at Ronald. I should go. Can I buy you coffee? The words came out rushed. Desperate. Just coffee. One conversation. Please. Jessica hesitated. For just a second, he saw something flicker in her eyes, curiosity, maybe. Or recognition of something she wasn't ready to name. I don't think that's a good idea, she said finally. Why not? Because you're a billionaire who's been looking for me for 3 years, and I'm a single mom paramedic who works 60-hour weeks and has exactly 0 space in her life for. She gestured vaguely between them. Whatever this is. Single mom. The information landed like a punch to his chest. Of course she had a whole life he knew nothing about. 1 coffee, Ronald said. 1 hour. If you want me to leave you alone after that, I will. Jessica. The voice called again. She looked torn. I really have to go. Please. Something in his voice, the raw honesty, maybe, or the 3 years of searching finally breaking through, made her pause. She pulled out her phone. What's your number? Ronald recited it so fast he almost stumbled over the digits. She typed it in, not committing, not promising anything. I'm not saying yes, Jessica said firmly. I'm saying, maybe. I need to think about it. That's all I'm asking. She studied him one more time, really looked at him, the way she had that night when he was bleeding and broken. Like she could see straight through to the truth of who he was. Then she turned and walked away, her black dress disappearing into the crowd of first responders and donors and people who had no idea that Ronald's entire world had just shifted on its axis. Trent appeared at his shoulder. Was that her? Yeah. And? Ronald watched the space where she'd disappeared. His heart was pounding like he'd just run a marathon. She said maybe. For the first time in 3 years, maybe felt like everything. March 16, 2024, 11:45 p.m. Jessica Williams sat in her small kitchen in North Charleston, her phone on the table in front of her, and tried to talk herself out of something incredibly stupid. The house was quiet. Amara had been asleep for 2 hours, finally, after an evening of third-grade homework and negotiations about bedtime. Down the hall, Jessica could hear her mother moving around in the guest room, getting ready for bed. Diane had good days and bad days now. Today had been good. Tomorrow was anybody's guess. Jessica picked up her phone. Put it down. Picked it up again. I've been looking for you for 3 years. She should delete his number. Block it, even. Men like Ronald Gary, billionaires, playboys, men whose engagement parties made the society pages, didn't search for paramedics for 3 years. That wasn't how the world worked. Except he'd known the detail about 6 minutes. And his eyes when he'd looked at her. You're still up. Jessica looked up to find her mother in the doorway, wearing her favorite purple robe. Diane Williams was 65, with silver hair she wore natural and proud, and eyes that still saw too much despite the dementia trying to cloud them. Couldn't sleep, Ma. Diane crossed to the kettle, moving slowly. Tea? I'm okay. Her mother made tea anyway, chamomile, the way she had when Jessica was little and couldn't settle. She set a mug in front of her daughter and eased into the opposite chair. What's his name? Diane asked. Jessica blinked. What? Baby girl, I've known you for 35 years. You get that look on your face, it's about a man. Her mother's smile was gentle. So what's his name? It's not. Ma, it's complicated. Is he married? No. Does he have children? I don't think so. Is he kind? Jessica thought about Ronald's eyes when he'd said please. The vulnerability underneath the expensive suit. I don't know him well enough to say. But you want to. Did she? Jessica wrapped her hands around the warm mug. He was in an accident 3 years ago. I was the paramedic who responded. We barely spoke, he was going into shock, I was doing my job. And tonight he told me he's been looking for me ever since. Diane was quiet for a moment. That's either very romantic or very concerning. That's what I'm trying to figure out. What does your gut say? Jessica's gut said that when Ronald Gary had looked at her tonight, she'd felt something shift. Something she hadn't felt since before Amara was born. Since before Deshawn had walked out and left her to raise their daughter alone. Since before her father died and her mother started forgetting things and Jessica became the strong one who held everything together. She'd felt seen. My gut says I don't have time for this, Jessica said finally. I work 60 hours a week. Amara needs me. You need me. I can't afford to get distracted by some billionaire with a rescue fantasy. Can't afford, Diane repeated. Or can't risk? Ma. Your father, God rest him, used to say that the biggest risks bring the biggest rewards. Her mother reached across the table, taking Jessica's hand. You've been taking care of everyone else for so long, baby. Maybe it's okay to let someone take care of you for once. Jessica's throat tightened. What if he leaves? What if I let myself, and then he realizes I'm not whatever he built up in his head, and he leaves? Like Deshawn had left. Like everyone eventually left. Then you survive, Diane said simply. Like you always do. But Jessica, what if he doesn't leave? What if he's exactly what he seems to be? Are you going to let fear make you miss that? Jessica looked down at her phone again. At the number she'd typed in but hadn't labeled. Hadn't committed to anything beyond maybe. 1 coffee, she murmured. That's all. Just to see. Her mother squeezed her hand. That's my girl. After Diane went to bed, Jessica sat alone in the quiet kitchen for another 20 minutes. Then, before she could overthink it anymore, she typed out a message. This is Jessica Williams. Coffee Monday, 2 p.m., if you're still interested. There's a cafe on King Street called Common Ground. I have exactly 1 hour. She hit send before she could delete it. The response came in less than 30 seconds. I'll be there. Thank you, Jessica. She stared at the message. At her name in his text. At the fact that she'd just agreed to have coffee with a man who'd been searching for her for 3 years. Her phone buzzed again. And for what it's worth. I never built anything up in my head. I've been looking for exactly who you are. Jessica set down the phone, her heart doing something complicated in her chest. Outside, Charleston slept. Inside, for the first time in longer than she could remember, Jessica Williams let herself feel something besides tired. She let herself feel hope. March 18, 2024, 1:55 p.m. Ronald arrived at Common Ground 15 minutes early and immediately regretted it. He'd changed clothes 3 times that morning. Settled on dark jeans and a navy Henley, casual enough not to seem like he was trying too hard. Now he sat at a corner table, checking his watch every 30 seconds. She might not come. The door chimed. Jessica stood in the doorway, backlit by afternoon sun, wearing scrubs, dark blue, Charleston fire and rescue embroidered on the chest. Her hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail. No makeup. Exhaustion written in the set of her shoulders. She was the most beautiful thing he'd ever seen. Their eyes met. For a second, he saw her hesitate, saw the moment she almost turned around and left. Ronald stood slowly. Jessica took a breath and walked toward him. You came, he said. I have an hour. She glanced at her watch. 58 minutes now. Split shift, worked 6 to noon, back on at 4. You came here between shifts? It was the only time that worked. Jessica sat down, movements efficient. Professional. Can I get you something? Coffee, food? I'm fine. Jessica. I grabbed something at the station. But her eyes flickered toward the pastry case. Ronald stood. I'm getting you a sandwich. And coffee. How do you take it? Her shoulders sagged slightly, the first crack in the armor. Black. 1 sugar. And, turkey and Swiss. No tomatoes. He returned with 2 coffees, her sandwich, and a chocolate croissant. Jessica stared at the food. I said I was fine. You're about to work another 8 hours. You need to eat. He pushed the plate toward her. Please. Her stomach growled audibly. Something that might have been a smile flickered across her face. Thank you, she said quietly, and took a bite. They sat in silence. Ronald tried to figure out how to start without sounding insane. Jessica solved the problem for him. So, 3 years. That's a long time to look for someone whose last name you didn't know. I hired investigators. They couldn't find you. Turns out, Jessica, Charleston EMT, isn't much to go on. There are 47 Jessicas in emergency services in the greater Charleston area. Her eyebrows rose. You counted. I met with 32 of them personally. That's... Jessica shook her head. I can't decide if that's dedicated or disturbing. Probably both, Ronald admitted. Jessica studied him with that assessing look that saw straight through to truth. Why? I was doing my job. I've responded to hundreds of calls since that night. Why did that one matter so much? Ronald had tried to logic his way through this 1,000 times. But the answer was simple and complicated. Because you saw me, he said quietly. Not the CEO, not the money, not the headline. Just me. A man who'd made a mess of his life. And you didn't judge. You promised I'd be okay. That's standard. Protocol, I know. Ronald leaned forward. But Jessica, I was engaged to someone I didn't love, living a life that felt like wearing someone else's skin. I was so lost I didn't realize it until I was driving away from my own engagement party. And then I woke up in a hospital and the only clear thing in my head was your voice. Jessica's hand stilled on her coffee cup. So I called off the engagement. Changed everything. How I ran my company, how I spent my time, who I let into my life. And I kept thinking, I need to find her. I need to see if... He stopped. If what? Jessica's voice was barely a whisper. If you felt it too. The cafe noise faded. Jessica looked at him like she was trying to solve an impossible equation. I was doing my job, she said finally. I don't. I can't feel something for every patient I save. I'd never survive it. I'm not asking about every patient. I'm asking about me. I don't know you. That's why I'm here. So you can. Jessica took a long sip of coffee. Okay. You want me to know you? Tell me why you ran. The real story. Ronald sat back. Her name was Victoria Ashworth. Old Charleston family. We dated 8 months. It was easy. She fit into my world. I fit into hers. Everyone expected it. When I proposed, it felt like checking a box. Terrible reason to get married. I know that now. But I'd spent 34 years doing what was expected. Ronald's jaw tightened. At the engagement party, Victoria's mother gave a toast about legacy and strategic partnerships. Victoria was smiling like it was romantic. And I looked around at 200 people celebrating what felt like a business merger, and I couldn't breathe. So you ran. So I ran. Walked out, got in my car, drove. Wasn't thinking about where, just trying to escape a life that was suffocating me. And crashed. And crashed. His mouth twisted. Probably the most honest thing I'd done in years. Jessica turned her coffee cup in slow circles. What happened to Victoria? She married a hedge fund manager 8 months later. She came up to me at an event last year. Told me I did us both a favor. She's happy now. Are you? Jessica asked. Happy? The question landed heavy. I'm better, Ronald said honestly. Changed the company, better practices, work-life balance. Stopped dating because I was tired of surface connections. Started the first responder initiative because I wanted to do something that mattered. But happy? I think I was waiting. To find you. Jessica's breath caught. That's a lot of pressure to put on a stranger, she said. I know. I'm sorry. Don't apologize. Just be realistic. I'm not whoever you built up. I'm a 35-year-old paramedic with a complicated life and no time for fairy tales. Tell me about your life, Ronald said immediately. All of it. Jessica hesitated, weighing how much to share. My daughter's name is Amara, she finally said. She's 8. Smartest kid I've ever met. Her father and I were never married. He left before she was born. It's been just us. That must be hard. It's life. Careful neutrality. We're fine. Amara's thriving, honor roll, science club. We have a good life. But you work 60-hour weeks. Someone has to pay the bills. Ronald heard what she wasn't saying. What else? Jessica's fingers tightened on her cup. My mother lives with us. Diane. She's 65, diagnosed with early-stage dementia in January. Some days she's herself. Other days she forgets where she is, who I am. It's progressive. I'm sorry. Yeah. Me too. Her voice cracked. My father died 4 years ago. Firefighter, died in the line of duty. He's why I became an EMT. And now my mother is forgetting him. Forgetting their whole life. I can't stop it. Ronald's chest ached. Medical bills. Dementia care isn't cheap. Neither is raising a kid. I do what I have to do. By yourself. I have friends. My church community helps with Amara sometimes. But she sounded alone. Like someone who'd been carrying everything so long she'd forgotten what sharing the weight felt like. Can I ask you something? Ronald said carefully. When's the last time someone took care of you? Jessica blinked. What? You take care of patients. Your daughter. Your mother. Who takes care of Jessica? She looked down at her sandwich. That's what I thought, Ronald said softly. I don't need. Everyone needs someone, Jessica. Yeah, well, needing and having are two different things. She glanced at her watch and stood abruptly. I have to go. Shift starts in 20 minutes. Ronald stood, trying not to show disappointment. Can I see you again? Why? Because 1 hour isn't enough. Because you're the first person I've wanted to spend time with in 3 years and I'm not ready for that to end. She studied him, walls still up but maybe cracking. I work 4 12-hour shifts this week, Jessica said finally. I have Saturday off. Amara has a soccer game at 10. I'll be there. At the game. Her eyes widened. I wasn't inviting you to. I know. But if Saturday's your only day off, I don't want to take you away from your daughter. Let me come. We can talk after. You want to spend Saturday morning at a kid's soccer game. I want to spend Saturday anywhere you are. Jessica looked at him for a long moment. Okay. Ronald's heart kicked. Yeah? Northside Recreation Complex. Field 3. 10 a.m. She slung her bag over her shoulder. Don't be late. I won't be. She turned to leave, then paused. Ronald? Thank you. For the sandwich. And for this. It was nice. Talking to someone who isn't bleeding out or asking for homework help or forgetting my name. Then she was gone. Ronald stood in the empty cafe, chest full of hope. March 23, 2024, 10:15 a.m. The Northside Recreation Complex was chaos, parents with camping chairs, team banners, screaming kids in oversized shin guards. You must be Ronald. He turned. Jessica walked toward him in jeans and a faded Howard University sweatshirt, hair down in natural curls. The humidity was turning wild. No makeup. Genuine smile. Devastating. You came, she said, surprised. I said I would. Most men run from this. She gestured at the organized chaos. I'm not most men. Starting to figure that out. She pointed to a girl with beaded braids and number 7. That's Amara. Midfielder. Takes it way too seriously for rec league. Ronald watched Amara execute professional-level stretches. She's focused. She's my daughter. Once she commits, she's all in. Pure pride in Jessica's voice. The whistle blew. For 45 minutes, Ronald got a masterclass in Jessica as a mother, cheering every touch, calling tactical advice, celebrating both teams' good plays. At halftime, Amara jogged over. Baby, this is my friend Ronald, Jessica said carefully. Amara looked up with Jessica's dark eyes and solemn assessment. You're the man from Mama's phone. Ronald blinked. Your phone? Jessica went still. I saw her looking at your messages, Amara continued. She does that thing where she smiles and doesn't think anyone's watching. Are you her boyfriend? Amara. Jessica's voice cracked with mortification. It's logical, Mama. You never have boyfriends over. And you're smiling different. Ronald bit back a laugh. I'm a friend. Your mom and I met a while back. I'm hoping to get to know her better. And you, if that's okay. Amara considered this. Do you like science? I love science. I run a technology company that builds AI systems. Her eyes went wide. Like robots? Sort of. Really smart computer programs that learn and make decisions. That's so cool. She turned to Jessica. Mama, can he come to ice cream after? Jessica looked trapped between yes and protecting her daughter from disappointment. Sweetie, Ronald might have plans. I don't, Ronald said immediately. I'd love ice cream. If it's okay with your mom. Amara nodded enthusiastically. Jessica looked at Ronald, a question in her eyes. Are you sure? He answered with a nod, absolutely. Okay, Jessica said softly. Ice cream after. Amara grinned and ran back. Jessica sat heavily. I'm sorry. She's very direct. She's wonderful. She's going to ask a million questions. Good. I have a million for her too. Jessica looked at him, something vulnerable crossing her face. You don't have to do the whole package deal thing. I know it's a lot. Jessica. He waited until she met his eyes. I'm here because I want to be. All of it. A blush crept across her cheeks, the first time he'd seen her anything less than composed. You do smile at my messages, Ronald said. Shut up and watch the game. But she was smiling. April 10, 2024, 7:30 p.m. Their first real date. No daughter, no time limits. Jessica answered the door in a deep green dress, hair swept up. Ronald forgot how to speak. You look beautiful. Her smile was shy. You clean up well yourself. He'd chosen a restaurant on Charleston Harbor, waterfront views, quiet enough to talk. Seated overlooking water, the setting sun painting everything gold. "This is nice," Jessica said. "Really nice. Probably too nice." "Nothing's too nice for you." They ordered. Talked. The conversation flowed, Amara's science fair project, his new emergency response AI system. "Wait," Jessica set down her wine. "You're building systems for first responders?" "For 3 years. Better dispatch, predictive modeling, real-time data integration. Reduce response times, improve outcomes." Jessica stared. "The new system we got last year. That was you." "My company, yes." "Ronald, do you know how many lives that saved?" He shifted uncomfortably. "I wanted to do something that mattered." "You did this because of that night." "Because of me." "I did this because you showed me what real heroism looks like." Jessica reached across the table and took his hand, first time she'd initiated contact. Fingers laced through his, warm and sure. "Thank you," she said quietly. Ronald looked at their joined hands, heart pounding. "Jessica, I know we're taking this slow. And I've been guarded. But I want you to know, you mean something to me. You mean everything to me. Raw. Honest." Jessica's breath caught. After dinner, they walked the waterfront. Harbor lights reflected on dark water. The air was warm. "Can I ask you something?" Jessica stopped near the pineapple fountain. "Anything." "That night, when you called off the engagement, was it really just clarity? Or were you running from something?" Ronald considered. "Both. Running from a life that wasn't mine. Found clarity in the worst moment. But I wasn't running to anything until I started looking for you. That's when I figured out what I wanted. Which is something real. Someone who sees me, not my bank account. A life that means something." He turned to face her. "Someone like you. I'm not special. I'm just a paramedic trying to keep her head above water. You're extraordinary. I wish you could see yourself the way I see you." She looked up, eyes reflecting fountain lights. "How do you see me?" "Strong. Compassionate. Beautiful. Stubborn." His mouth quirked. "Okay, very stubborn. Fiercely protective. Brave enough to save strangers and vulnerable enough to let me see how scared you are sometimes." "I am scared," she whispered. "Of this. Of you. Of how much I already care." "Me too." "You? The billionaire who hired investigators?" "Yes, me. Because what if I screw this up? What if I'm not what you need?" Jessica kissed him. Soft, tentative, a question. Ronald's hands framed her face, kissing her back with 3 years of searching and hoping. When they pulled apart, breathless, Jessica rested her forehead against his. "I'm still scared," she murmured. "That's okay. We can be scared together." She laughed softly. "That's not how bravery works." "Sure it is. Being terrified and doing it anyway. You taught me that." She pulled back to look at him. "This might be the best first date I've ever had." "Just the first. I'm planning many more." "Confident, aren't you? Hopeful. There's a difference." They walked back hand in hand. When he kissed her goodnight on her doorstep, he counted every second before she pulled away. "Same time next week? I work Friday, but Thursday night." "Thursday. 7 o'clock. Jessica smiled, real, unguarded. "Okay." She went inside. Ronald sat in his car for 5 minutes, grinning. Trent was right. He'd lost his mind. Best decision he'd ever made. June 12, 2024, 6 p.m. 3 years to the day since the accident. Ronald stood at the roadside memorial on Highway 17, flowers left for other crashes, a white cross marking where someone hadn't survived. Jessica stood beside him, hand in his. "This is where it happened," he said quietly. She looked at the curve, the ditch, the shoulder where his Aston Martin had rolled. "I remember. We had to use the jaws of life. You were unconscious by the time we got you out. You told me I'd be okay. Did I? I don't remember that part." "I do. I remember everything about your voice." He turned to her. 3 years ago tonight, I was running from the wrong life. And you saved me. Not just from dying. From everything." Jessica's eyes were bright. "Ronald. I love you." The words hung in the humid evening air. Jessica's breath stopped. "What?" "I love you, Jessica Williams. I've loved you since you promised a stranger he'd survive. I loved you when I didn't know your last name. I love you more now that I know you, how you are with Amara, how you care for your mother, how you're scared but brave anyway. I love you." Tears slipped down her cheeks. "That's not fair. You can't say that here. At the place where we met. On the anniversary. That's true. It's true. And I needed you to know." Jessica pulled him down and kissed him hard, desperate and certain all at once. When they broke apart, she was crying and smiling simultaneously. "I love you too," she whispered. God help me, I love you too. Ronald pulled her close, holding her as the sun set over Highway 17, right where everything had changed. 3 years of searching. Worth every single second. July 18, 2024, 3:45 p.m. Jessica stood in the parking lot of Charleston Memorial's neurology wing, staring at the folder in her hands. Estimated annual cost for memory care, $78,000 to $95,000. The neurologist had been kind, professional, realistic about Diane's progression. Her mother needed specialized care within 6 months. Maybe sooner. Jessica made $52,000 a year. The math didn't work. No matter how many times she ran the numbers, applied for assistance programs, searched for alternatives, the math just didn't work. Her phone buzzed. Ronald, dinner tonight? I'll cook. Amara can help. Despite everything, she smiled. 3 months together, and he'd become part of their lives so seamlessly it scared her. Amara adored him. Diane had lucid conversations with him about his company, his plans, his intentions toward her daughter. Even Keisha had grudgingly admitted he was decent for a billionaire. And Jessica had fallen completely, terrifyingly in love. Which made what she was about to do even harder. She typed back, "Can we talk? Just us. After Amara's asleep?" The response was immediate, "Of course. Everything okay?" Jessica looked at the folder again. At the impossible numbers. "Yeah. Just need to discuss something." She was lying. Nothing was okay. July 18, 2024, 9:30 p.m. Ronald knew something was wrong the moment Jessica walked through his door. She'd left Amara with Keisha. Drove herself instead of letting him pick her up. Stood in his downtown Charleston mansion's foyer like she was preparing for battle. "Jessica?" He reached for her hand. She let him take it but didn't squeeze back. "We need to talk." Those 4 words had never meant anything good. They sat in his living room, her on the edge of the couch, him trying not to crowd her space. The city lights of Charleston glittered through the floor-to-ceiling windows. "What's wrong?" Ronald asked quietly. Jessica pulled out the folder. Handed it to him without speaking. He read through it quickly. Memory care facility recommendations. Cost breakdowns. Projected timelines for Diane's deterioration. By the time he finished, his chest was tight. "When did you get this?" he asked. "This afternoon. Neurologist appointment." Her voice was carefully controlled. "Ma had another episode last week." She didn't recognize Amara. Got angry, confused. "It scared both of us. The doctor says she needs specialized care soon." "Okay." Ronald's mind was already working. "We'll figure it out. There are facilities I can." "No." The word was sharp. Final. Ronald looked up. Jessica's face was set in that professional mask she wore when things hurt too much to feel. "No," he repeated. "I can't accept that kind of help from you, Ronald." "Why not?" "Jessica, I have the resources. I want to help. Your mother needs care, and I can. Pay for it." Her laugh was bitter. "Just write a check and solve all my problems? That's not what I meant. Isn't it?" Jessica stood, pacing to the windows. "You see a problem, you fix it. That's what you do. But this isn't a dispatch system or a business deal. This is my mother. My responsibility. You don't have to carry everything alone." "Yes, I do." She turned to face him. "Because what happens when you get tired of playing hero? When the reality of dementia care gets ugly, and it will get ugly, Ronald. The forgetting, the anger, the loss of dignity. What happens when you realize you signed up for more than you bargained for?" Ronald stood slowly. "You think I'd leave? Everyone leaves eventually." "I'm not everyone." "You say that now." Her voice cracked. "But you've known me for 4 months. We've been together in the easy part, dinners and soccer games and falling in love. You haven't seen the hard parts yet. And I can't let you pay for my mother's care and then have you walk away when it gets too difficult. I won't survive that." The truth of her fear was written across her face. This wasn't about pride or independence. It was about protection. About a woman who'd been abandoned before and was terrifying of it happening again. "Jessica." Ronald crossed to her, taking both her hands. "I love you. Not the easy version of you, all of you. The parts that are scared, the parts that are struggling. I'm not going anywhere." Tears spilled down her cheeks. "You don't know that." "Yes, I do. My ex said the same thing. When I was pregnant with Amara, Deshaun promised he'd be there. He loved me, he wanted our family, we'd figure it out together." Her voice shook. "He left 2 weeks before my due date. Blocked my number and disappeared. I gave birth alone, Ronald. I raised my daughter alone. I watched my father die alone. I can't." She broke off, sobbing. Ronald pulled her into his arms, holding her while she cried against his chest. His heart was breaking for her, for every abandonment, every broken promise, every time she'd been left to carry the weight by herself. "I'm not Deshaun," he said quietly. "I'm not your father, and I'm not going to die and leave you. I'm here, Jessica. I'm staying." She pulled back, wiping her eyes. "You can't promise that." "I can promise I'll try. Every single day." He cupped her face. "Let me help with your mother's care. Please. Not as charity, as partnership. Because we're building a life together, and that means sharing the hard things too." Jessica shook her head. "I can't." "Why not?" "Because if I accept this, if I let you pay for something this big, I lose myself. I become the woman who needs rescuing. The single mom who landed a billionaire and let him solve all her problems." She stepped back, out of his arms. "I've worked my entire adult life to take care of myself and my family. I can't give that up. I'm not asking you to give up anything. I'm asking you to let me in. It's too much, too fast. It's 3 months, Jessica. We've been together 3 months, and I love you, and I want to help. Why is that wrong?" "Because," she stopped. Took a shaky breath. "Because I'm terrified that if you fix this, you'll think you fixed me. That I'm a project to complete. And when the newness wears off, you'll realize you're dating a paramedic with a mountain of baggage and you could have anyone else." There it was. The core fear underneath everything. Ronald felt his own frustration rising. "That's not fair. I've spent 4 months showing you I'm serious. Meeting your daughter, spending time with your mother, being part of your life. What more do I have to do to prove I'm not going anywhere?" "I don't know." Jessica's voice rose. "Maybe there's nothing you can do because this is my issue, not yours. Maybe I'm too broken to trust anyone." "You're not broken." "Yes, I am." The words echoed in the quiet room. "I'm 35 years old, Ronald. I have a daughter, a dying mother, dead up to my eyeballs, and trust issues that would take years of therapy to unpack. This is what you're signing up for. And I'm giving you an out before you're in too deep." Ronald stared at her. "Is that what this is? You're trying to push me away before I can leave on my own?" Jessica's silence was answer enough. "Wow." He laughed without humor. "You really don't believe I love you. I believe you think you do." "No." His voice was sharp. "Don't do that. Don't diminish what I feel because you're scared. I know exactly what I feel, Jessica. I've known since the night you saved my life. And yes, maybe 3 months seems fast, but I spent 3 years looking for you. 3 years changing my entire life hoping I'd find you again. So forgive me if I'm all in faster than you're comfortable with." Jessica wrapped her arms around herself. "I need time. To figure out the care situation on my own. To think about what accepting help would mean." "How much time?" "I don't know. Days? Weeks? Months while your mother's condition deteriorates? That's not fair." "None of this is fair." Ronald's frustration finally broke through. "You're hurting, your mother needs help, I have the resources to make this easier, and you won't let me because you're terrified I'll leave. Well, you know what? Pushing me away is a guaranteed way to make that happen." Jessica flinched like he'd struck her. Ronald immediately regretted the words. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean." "No, you're right." Her voice was hollow. "I am pushing you away. Because that's what I do when things get hard. I shut down, I handle it myself, I don't let anyone close enough to hurt me." She grabbed her purse. "I should go." "Jessica, wait. I need space, Ronald. To think. To figure out what I can accept and what I can't." She was already moving toward the door. "I'm sorry. I know this isn't what you want to hear. What I want is you. All of you. The struggling parts too." She stopped at the door, hand on the knob. "What if that's not enough? What if I can't be what you need? You are exactly what I need." Jessica looked back at him, tears streaming down her face. "I wish I could believe that." Then she was gone. Ronald stood in his empty living room, the folder about Diane's care still on his coffee table, and wondered how they'd gone from "I love you" to this in 5 weeks. July 25, 2024, 11 a.m. 1 week of silence. Jessica had texted once, "I need time. Please respect that." Ronald had responded, "I'm here when you're ready." Now he sat in his office at Gary Technologies, trying to focus on quarterly reports and failing completely. Trent had given up trying to get work out of him 3 days ago. His phone buzzed. Unknown number. Ronald Gary. "Mr. Gary? This is Deshaun Porter. Jessica Williams' ex." Ronald's entire body went rigid. "How did you get this number?" "Doesn't matter. We need to talk. About Jessica. And my daughter." Jessica made it clear she doesn't want me involved in her personal business. "Yeah, I know. Woman's got walls like Fort Knox." Deshaun's voice was smooth. Too smooth. But see, I've been reading about you too. Papers say the billionaire's dating a paramedic. Very romantic. And I'm thinking, that's my daughter's mother. Mother of my child. Who's now dating a man worth $4 billion. Ronald's jaw clenched. What do you want? Joint custody. I want to be in Amara's life. After 8 years of nothing? People change. I'm ready to be a father now. And I'm sure Jessica will be reasonable about it. Especially if we can come to an understanding. You're threatening me. I'm being practical. Deshawn's voice hardened. You're with Jessica, which means you're in my daughter's life. I want to make sure she's safe. Protected. And I want my rights as a father. So either we work this out like adults, or I file for custody. Your choice. Jessica will fight you. With what lawyer? On her salary? He laughed. Meanwhile, I've got representation ready to go. And judges don't look kindly on mothers who keep fathers away from their kids. Especially when said mothers are working 60-hour weeks and relying on elderly women with dementia to watch their children. Rage flooded through Ronald. You son of a... Careful. I'm recording this call. Deshawn's smile was audible. Have Jessica call me. We'll work something out. Or don't, and I'll see you in court. Either way, I'm getting what's mine. The line went dead. Ronald sat frozen, Deshawn's words echoing in his head. This wasn't about Amara. This was about money. About a man who'd abandoned his child seeing an opportunity. He needed to tell Jessica. But she'd asked for space. Said she needed time to think. If he told her about Deshawn now, she'd think he was inserting himself into her life again. Trying to fix her problems. Being the hero she'd accused him of playing. But if he didn't tell her, and Deshawn filed for custody. Ronald's phone rang again. This time Jessica's number. Jessica. He called you, didn't he? Her voice was shaking. Deshawn. He just showed up at my house. Told me he wants joint custody of Amara. Said if I don't agree, he'll take me to court. And that he already spoke to you about it. I was just about to call you. Don't. The word was sharp. Don't say you were going to tell me. Don't say you were protecting me. Just, don't. Jessica, he threatened you. He's using me, using our relationship, to extort you. I know. She sounded exhausted. Defeated. And that's exactly why this is a problem. Because now my ex-boyfriend who abandoned our daughter thinks there's money to grab. Because I'm dating you. That's not your fault. Isn't it? I let you into our lives. Into Amara's life. And now Deshawn sees dollar signs and wants custody of a daughter he hasn't seen in 8 years. Her voice broke. This is exactly what I was afraid of. We'll fight him. Get you a lawyer. He has no case. With what money, Ronald? You'll pay for the lawyer too? And then what, he uses that against me in court? Says I'm being bankrolled by my rich boyfriend? I don't care what he says. Well, I do. This is my daughter. And I can't risk losing her because I fell in love with you. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Jessica. I need to handle this myself. Find a way to deal with Deshawn without involving you. Which means. She took a shaky breath. I think we need to take a break. Until this is resolved. Ronald felt the ground shift beneath him. You're breaking up with me. I'm protecting my daughter. By pushing away the person who wants to help you. By not giving Deshawn more ammunition. Her voice rose. Don't you understand? Every dinner you buy, every time you're around Amara, every dollar you spend on us is something he can use in court. I can't afford that risk. So you're choosing him. Choosing what he might do over what we have. I'm choosing my daughter. Like I always will. Jessica's voice was firm now. Decided. I'm sorry, Ronald. I love you. But I love her more. And I can't take the chance. How long? His voice was hoarse. I don't know. However long it takes to resolve the custody situation. Weeks. Months. Maybe longer. Jessica, if you do this, if you push me away now, then you'll leave. Like everyone else. I know. She was crying now. But at least it'll be on my terms. At least I'll still have Amara. You could have both of us. I can't risk it. I'm sorry. The line went dead. Ronald sat in his office as Charleston moved on outside his windows. Traffic flowing. People living their lives. The world completely unchanged by the fact that his had just shattered. He'd found her after 3 years of searching. And he was losing her to the same fear that had kept her walls up from the beginning. The fear that everyone leaves. And now, by walking away to protect her daughter, Jessica was proving herself right. August 15, 2024, 2:30 p.m. 3 weeks since Jessica had ended things. Ronald sat across from Trent at a downtown Charleston cafe, barely touching his coffee. His best friend had insisted on lunch after witnessing Ronald go through the motions at work like a ghost. You look terrible, Trent said bluntly. Thanks. I'm serious. When's the last time you slept? Actually ate something? Ronald shrugged. The truth was, he didn't know. Days blurred together. He went to the office, attended meetings, signed documents. Came home to an empty mansion that had never felt empty before. Jessica. She's protecting her daughter, Ronald said quietly. I understand that. I respect it. But Trent, I don't know how to fight for someone who won't let me fight for her. Have you talked to her? She asked for space. I'm giving it to her. That's very noble and very stupid. Trent leaned forward. Brother, I watched you search for this woman for 3 years. You changed your entire life for her. And now you're just giving up? I'm not giving up. I'm respecting her choice. Her choice is based on fear. On some deadbeat ex using your relationship as leverage. Are you really going to let him win? Ronald's jaw tightened. What am I supposed to do? Force my way into her life? Prove her fears right by not respecting her boundaries? No. But you could fight. Hire her a lawyer yourself, anonymously if you have to. Deal with this Deshawn problem so she doesn't have to choose between you and Amara. She'd see that as me trying to control things. Or she'd see it as you loving her enough to help even when she pushes you away. Trent sat back. Look, I get it. She's scared. She's been abandoned before. But you're abandoning her too by just accepting this. Sometimes love means fighting for someone even when they tell you not to. Ronald stared into his coffee. What if she never lets me back in? What if I wait and fight and it's still not enough? Then at least you'll know you tried. But right now? You're just proving her right, that everyone leaves when things get hard. The words hit like a physical blow. Trent was right. Ronald had been so focused on respecting Jessica's boundaries that he hadn't considered what his absence might confirm for her. That when faced with real difficulty, he'd stepped back. Just like Deshawn. Just like everyone else who'd left her to handle things alone. I need to fix this, Ronald said. Yeah, you do. But not by forcing my way in. By showing her she doesn't have to do this alone. His mind was already working, planning. I need to talk to someone. Get advice on how to handle this the right way. Trent grinned. Now that's the man who hired 32 private investigators. Welcome back. August 20th, 2024, 6:45 p.m. Jessica sat in her small kitchen, reviewing the custody paperwork for the 100th time. Deshawn's lawyer had filed 2 weeks ago. The hearing was scheduled for September 28th. She'd found a family attorney willing to work on a payment plan, but even discounted, the costs were crushing. Mama? You okay? Jessica looked up to find Amara in the doorway, concern written across her 8-year-old face. I'm fine, baby. Just looking at some work stuff. You're lying. Amara came into the kitchen, climbing into the chair across from her. You do that thing where you rub your forehead when you're stressed. And you've been doing it a lot since Mr. Ronald stopped coming around. Jessica's chest tightened. Amara, did you break up because of my dad? The question was so direct, so perceptive, that Jessica couldn't find a deflection fast enough. It's complicated, sweetie. He came here. My dad. I heard you talking to Nana about it. Amara's voice was small. He wants to see me now because you're dating someone rich. That's what you said. You weren't supposed to hear that. I hear lots of things. Amara looked down at her hands. Is he going to take me away? No. Jessica reached across the table, gripping her daughter's hands. Absolutely not. I won't let that happen. But what if the judge says I have to go with him? He's my dad. Don't dads get rights? Dads who show up and take responsibility get rights. Men who abandon their children and only come back when they smell money don't. Jessica's voice was fierce. You are my daughter. We're going to fight this, and we're going to win. I don't want to see him. I don't even know him. Tears welled in Amara's eyes. I want Mr. Ronald back. He was nice. He explained science stuff and he made you smile. Why can't he help us? Because I pushed him away. Because I'm terrified. Because I don't know how to accept help without losing myself. It's not that simple, baby. Why not? You love him. He loves you. I could tell. So why? Amara, enough. Jessica's voice cracked. I'm doing the best I can. Sometimes that means making hard choices you don't understand. Amara pulled her hands back, standing up. You always say I should ask for help when I need it. That being strong doesn't mean doing everything alone. But you don't follow your own rules. She left the kitchen, footsteps heavy on the stairs. Jessica sat alone with the custody papers, her daughter's words echoing in her head. You don't follow your own rules. August 22nd, 2024, 10:15 a.m. You look exhausted. Jessica glanced at Keisha as they restocked the ambulance between calls. Her best friend had been watching her with increasing concern for weeks. I'm fine. You're not fine. You've lost weight, you're running on fumes, and you nearly missed that cardiac arrest call yesterday because you were zoned out. Keisha closed the supply cabinet firmly. Talk to me. There's nothing to talk about. I have a custody hearing in 5 weeks. I'm preparing. By working yourself to death and pushing away everyone who cares about you. I'm not. You broke up with Ronald. It wasn't a question. Jessica's hand stilled on the bandages she was organizing. How did you know? Because he called me. Jessica's head snapped up. What? 2 weeks ago. Asked if you were okay. Said you'd ended things and he was worried about you. Keisha's expression was unreadable. I told him you were handling it. That you always handle everything yourself. And you know what he said? Jessica didn't want to know. Couldn't bear to know. He said, I know. That's what I'm worried about. Keisha moved closer. Girl, what are you doing? Protecting my daughter. By sacrificing your own happiness? By proving to yourself that you're strong enough to survive alone. Keisha shook her head. That's not strength, Jess. That's fear. You don't understand. I understand that you've been waiting for him to leave since the day you met him. And when things got complicated, you gave him a reason to go. Pushed him away before he could hurt you. Keisha's voice gentlened. But honey, he didn't leave. You did. The truth of it hit Jessica like a physical blow. Deshaun is using our relationship against me, she said weakly. Says I'm being bankrolled by a billionaire, that I'm putting Amara around strangers. Deshaun is a deadbeat looking for a payday. Any judge with eyes will see that. But you're so terrified of needing someone that you'd rather face him alone than let Ronald help you. If I let Ronald pay for lawyers, for my mother's care, for everything I can't afford, what does that make me? Loved. Keisha gripped her shoulders. It makes you loved, Jessica. By a man who spent 3 years searching for you. Who shows up to 8-year-old soccer games. Who looks at you like you hung the moon. And you're throwing that away because you're scared. I'm terrified, Jessica whispered. What if I let him in completely and he realizes I'm too much? Too broken, too complicated, too human? Girl, everyone's broken. Everyone's complicated. That's not a reason to be alone. Keisha pulled her into a hug. Your mama's getting worse. You're drowning in medical bills. Your ex is threatening custody. And the man who loves you is sitting in his mansion respecting your boundaries while his heart breaks. How is any of this working out for you? Jessica let herself cry against her best friend's shoulder, all the fear and exhaustion and loneliness she'd been holding in for weeks. I don't know how to let him help without losing myself, she sobbed. Then figure it out. Together. That's what partnership means. Keisha pulled back, looking her in the eye. You teach Amara to ask for help. You tell your patients to accept support. Why can't you do the same? Because everyone always leaves. Except, Ronald hadn't left. She'd pushed him away, asked for space, told him she needed to handle things alone. And he'd respected that, even though it was killing him. He'd stayed. Even in absence, he'd stayed. What do I do? Jessica asked. You call him. You apologize for being an idiot. And you let that man love you the way you deserve to be loved. Keisha smiled. And maybe you let him hire you a damn good lawyer so you can destroy Deshaun in court. September 1st, 2024, 8:30 p.m. Ronald was in his home office when his phone rang. Jessica's number. His heart stopped. 3 weeks of silence. 3 weeks of respecting her space while dying inside. He answered on the second ring. Jessica. Hi. Her voice was small. Uncertain. Is this a bad time? No. Never. He closed his laptop, giving her his full attention. Are you okay? Is Amara okay? We're managing. The custody hearing is in 4 weeks. She took a shaky breath. Ronald, I need to say something. And I need you to let me get through it without interrupting. Okay? Okay. I was wrong. The words came out in a rush. About pushing you away. About thinking I had to handle everything alone. About being so scared you'd leave that I left first. I was wrong about all of it. Ronald gripped the phone, barely breathing. Amara asked me why I don't follow my own rules. She's right. I tell her to ask for help, to be brave, to trust people. But I don't do any of that myself. I've been alone for so long that I forgot what it feels like to have someone in my corner. And when things got hard, I panicked. Jessica. Let me finish. Please. Her voice cracked. I love you. I've loved you since you showed up to that soccer game. Maybe since the coffee shop. Maybe since you looked at me at that fundraiser like I was the answer to a question you'd been asking for years. And I'm so sorry I hurt you. I'm sorry I didn't trust that love enough to let you help. Ronald closed his eyes, her words washing over him like rain after drought. I don't know how to do this, Jessica continued. How to be in a partnership after being alone so long. How to accept help without feeling like I'm giving up my independence. But I want to try. If you'll still have me. If I haven't completely destroyed what we had. Jessica. And I need help with the custody case. Deshawn's lawyer is good, and mine is working on a payment plan, and I'm terrified I'm going to lose my daughter because I can't afford better representation. So I'm asking for help. Not as charity. Not as you rescuing me. But as my partner. As someone who loves Amara too. Yes. She stopped. What? Yes to all of it. Yes to helping with the custody case. Yes to being your partner. Yes to having you back because Jessica, these 3 weeks have been hell. Ronald's voice was rough with emotion. I love you. I never stopped. And I'm not going anywhere. Jessica was crying. He could hear it through the phone. I'm so sorry, she sobbed. I'm so sorry I pushed you away. I'm sorry I let you. Trent was right, I should have fought harder. Should have found a way to help that respected your boundaries but didn't leave you completely alone. You respected what I asked for. That's not wrong. Neither is fighting for someone you love. Ronald stood, grabbing his car keys. Where are you? Home. Why? Because I'm coming over. Right now. And we're going to sit down and figure this out together. The custody case, your mother's care, all of it. As partners. Ronald, it's late, Amara's asleep. I don't care. I've waited 3 weeks. I'm not waiting another minute. He heard her laugh through the tears. Okay. Come over. I'm already in the car. 20 minutes later, Ronald stood on Jessica's doorstep. She opened the door in pajama pants and an old Howard sweatshirt, eyes red from crying, hair in a messy bun. She'd never looked more beautiful. Hi, she whispered. Hi. They stared at each other for a heartbeat. Then Jessica closed the distance, wrapping her arms around him and burying her face in his chest. Ronald held her tight, breathing in the familiar scent of her shampoo, feeling the tension he'd carried for weeks finally release. I missed you, she murmured against his shirt. I missed you too. So much. They stood there in her doorway, holding each other, until Jessica finally pulled back. Come in. We should talk. Really talk. They sat on her couch, close enough to touch but not quite touching yet. Building back what had broken. I contacted a family law attorney, Ronald said. Best in Charleston. I didn't hire her yet, I wanted to talk to you first. But I got a consultation. If you're comfortable, I'd like to pay for her representation. Jessica started to protest, then stopped. Took a breath. What would that look like? I don't want Deshawn's lawyer using it against me. She can structure it as pro bono work. Or as representation through a nonprofit I fund. There are ways to keep it clean legally while still getting you the best defense. You already thought this through. I've had 3 weeks and nothing but time. Ronald reached for her hand. Jessica, I need you to understand something. Helping you isn't about me playing hero or you being a damsel in distress. It's about me using the resources I have to protect the people I love. That's what partners do. I'm still learning how to be someone's partner. Me too. We'll figure it out together. Jessica squeezed his hand. Okay. Yes. I'll meet with the attorney. Thank you for letting me help. Thank you for still wanting to. After everything. Ronald pulled her closer, tucking her against his side. Jessica, there is nothing you could do that would make me stop wanting to be with you. You could push me away 100 times, and I'd still come back. Because I love you. All of you. The scared parts, the stubborn parts, the parts that think you have to carry everything alone. I love all of it. I love you too. She tilted her face up. I really am sorry. I know. We're okay now. She kissed him, soft and sweet and full of promise. When they pulled apart, Jessica rested her head on his shoulder. What do we tell Amara? She asked. She's been asking about you. Ronald smiled. Tell her I'm back. If that's okay with you. More than okay. She'll be thrilled. They sat together in the quiet of her living room, Charleston sleeping outside her windows. The road ahead was still complicated, custody hearings, medical decisions, blending their very different worlds. But they'd face it together now. Jessica had finally let someone in. And Ronald had proven that some people don't leave. September 5, 2024, 3 p.m. 4 days after their reunion, Jessica sat in the office of Margaret Sinclair, the family law attorney Ronald had recommended. Margaret was in her 50s, sharp-eyed and no-nonsense. She'd spent the last hour reviewing Deshawn's custody filing with an expression that grew increasingly disdainful. This is garbage, Margaret said finally, tossing the papers on her desk. Pure garbage. He has no case. But he filed. Anyone can file. Doesn't mean they'll win. Margaret leaned back. Jessica, I've been practicing family law for 27 years. I can spot a cash grab from a mile away. Your ex hasn't seen his daughter in 8 years. No child support, no contact, no interest. He shows up now because you're dating someone wealthy. Any judge will see through this." Relief flooded through Jessica. "You really think so?" "I know so. We'll document everything, his absence, your sole financial and emotional support, Amara's wishes if necessary. We'll also get character witnesses. Your employer, your church community, friends who can attest to your parenting." Margaret smiled. "By the time we're done, Deshaun Porter will regret ever filing this motion." "How much will this cost?" "It's being covered through the Gary Foundation's Family Advocacy Program. Pro bono for you." Jessica nodded. Ronald had explained how he'd structured it, legally clean, no appearance of impropriety. Just good representation for someone who needed it. "Thank you," Jessica said quietly, "for taking this on. Thank you for letting me. I hate men who abandon their kids and come back for money." Margaret's expression hardened. "We're going to destroy him. Legally, of course." For the first time in weeks, Jessica felt hope. September 15, 2024, 11 a.m. 2 weeks before the custody hearing, Ronald sat with Jessica in another specialist's office, this time for Diane. The memory care facility was beautiful. Bright, clean, staff that actually seemed to care. And expensive. Even with the payment plan Ronald had arranged through his foundation's healthcare initiative, it was far beyond what Jessica could have managed alone. "Your mother would have a private room," the director explained. 24-hour care, activities designed for cognitive stimulation, therapy sessions with our neurologist. We specialize in early to mid-stage dementia. Our goal is quality of life and dignity." Jessica was crying silently. Ronald held her hand. "When could she start?" Jessica asked. "We have an opening next month. October 15th. After the custody hearing. After everything was settled." "We'll take it," Jessica said. When they left, she turned to Ronald in the parking lot. "I can't believe you did this. We did this. Together. Ronald, this is what your mother deserves. What you deserve. Peace of mind knowing she's getting the best care possible." He cupped her face. "Let me do this. Please." Jessica nodded, tears streaming. "Okay. Thank you. For all of it." He kissed her forehead. "We're going to get through this. The hearing, your mother's transition, everything. Together." "Together," Jessica whispered. And for the first time in her life, she believed it. September 28, 2024, 9 a.m. The Charleston County Family Court building was imposing, all marble and authority. Jessica sat on a bench outside courtroom 3, hands clasped so tightly her knuckles were white. Ronald sat beside her, steady as gravity. Margaret Sinclair reviewed notes on her tablet, utterly calm. Keisha had taken the day off to be there, sitting on Jessica's other side. Even Diane was present, having a good day, holding her daughter's hand. Across the hallway, Deshaun Porter sat with his lawyer. He looked exactly as Jessica remembered, handsome, charming smile, empty eyes. When he caught her looking, he winked. She looked away, nauseated. "He has nothing," Margaret murmured. "Remember that. No case, no credibility, nothing but entitlement and greed. What if the judge?" "Won't happen. Trust me." Margaret stood as the bailiff called them in. "Let's go end this." The courtroom was smaller than Jessica expected. Judge Patricia Morrison presided, a black woman in her 60s with kind eyes and an expression that suggested she suffered no fools. Deshaun's lawyer went first. Painted a picture of a reformed man, ready to be a father, concerned about his daughter being around strangers, worried about Jessica's work schedule and elderly mother's ability to provide care. "My client simply wants to be part of his daughter's life," the lawyer concluded. "Joint custody is in the child's best interest." Judge Morrison looked unimpressed. "Counselor, your client has had 8 years to be part of his daughter's life. Why now?" The lawyer stumbled through an answer about personal growth and readiness. Then it was Margaret's turn. She was surgical. Presented documentation of 8 years of absence, no child support, no birthday cards, no contact of any kind. Character witnesses via affidavit, Jessica supervisor at Charleston Fire and Rescue, her pastor, Keisha, parents from Amara's school. All testifying to Jessica's exemplary parenting, Amara's thriving development, the stability of their home. "Your Honor, this isn't about Mr. Porter wanting to be a father. It's about Mr. Porter reading tabloid articles about Ms. Williams' relationship with Ronald Gary and seeing dollar signs." Margaret's voice was steel. "He abandoned his daughter as an infant. He has contributed nothing to her well-being. And he files for custody only after learning Ms. Williams is dating someone wealthy. This is transparent, offensive, and not in Amara Williams' best interest whatsoever." Judge Morrison turned to Deshaun. Mr. Porter, why should I believe you want custody of a daughter you've ignored for 8 years? Deshawn stood, turning on the charm. Your Honor, I made mistakes. I was young, scared, not ready. But I've grown. I have a stable job now, a good home. I want to know my daughter. I want to be her father. You have a job? Judge Morrison glanced at the documents. According to these records, you've been unemployed for 6 months. Deshawn's smile faltered. You have a stable home? You're currently living with your mother. You owe $23,000 in back child support that you've never attempted to pay. The judge's expression hardened. Mr. Porter, I've seen a lot of cases in my career. I know the difference between a father who wants his child and a man who wants a payday. Your Honor, I'm not finished. Judge Morrison looked at Jessica. Ms. Williams, you've raised your daughter alone for 8 years. You work as a lead paramedic, saving lives. You care for your mother who has dementia. You've provided Amara with a stable, loving home despite significant challenges. Is that correct? Jessica stood, voice steady despite her nerves. Yes, Your Honor. And Mr. Gary, the judge looked at Ronald. You're present in court today. How long have you been in a relationship with Ms. Williams? Ronald stood. 6 months, Your Honor. For if you don't count the time she wisely told me to give her space. A small smile touched the judge's face. And your relationship with Amara? She's extraordinary. Smart, kind, curious. I care about her very much. And I care about her mother. I'm here to support them both, whatever the court decides. Judge Morrison nodded. Sit down, Mr. Gary. I appreciate your honesty. She reviewed her notes for a long moment. The courtroom was silent. Finally, she looked up. Mr. Porter's petition for joint custody is denied. Jessica's breath left her in a rush. Ronald's hand found hers. Furthermore, Judge Morrison continued, I'm granting Ms. Williams sole legal and physical custody of Amara Williams. Mr. Porter, you will have supervised visitation rights, 2 hours, twice a month, at a court-approved facility. That visitation is conditional on you beginning to pay child support. The amount will be determined based on your actual income, and you'll start with the $23,000 in arrears. Deshawn's face went red. Your Honor, that's not fair. What's not fair is abandoning your daughter and showing up 8 years later because you think there's money in it. The judge's voice was sharp. You want to be in Amara's life? Prove it. Pay your support. Show up for visitation. Act like a father. But you will not use this court to extort money from a woman who's done everything right while you did nothing. She banged her gavel. This case is closed. Margaret gathered her papers, utterly unsurprised. Deshawn's lawyer was already ushering his client out, Deshawn shooting Jessica a venomous look that promised this wasn't over. But it was. Judge Morrison had made sure of it. Jessica stood on shaking legs. Diane pulled her into a hug, crying. Keisha was whooping. Margaret shook her hand with a satisfied smile. And Ronald? Ronald just held her as she broke down, all the fear and tension of the past months finally releasing. It's over, he murmured into her hair. You won. She's yours. She's ours, Jessica corrected, pulling back to look at him. If you still want that. Ronald's smile could have lit the whole courthouse. I want that more than anything. October 12, 2024, 4:30 p.m. 2 weeks after the hearing, Ronald picked up Jessica and Amara for what he'd said was just a walk around the city. They ended up at Waterfront Park, the place where he'd first met Amara 6 months ago. The October afternoon was perfect, warm sun, cool breeze off the harbor, the pineapple fountain dancing in the light. Why are we here? Amara asked suspiciously. At 8 years old, she developed a keen sense for when adults were being secretive. I wanted to show you both something. Ronald led them to a bench near the fountain. This is where I met you, Amara. Remember? After your soccer game. Ice cream and questions about robots. Amara grinned. You bought me that dolphin. I did. And your mom looked at me like I was crazy for wanting to spend my Saturday with an 8-year-old soccer game. Jessica laughed. I was protecting her. I didn't know if you were serious about us. I've been serious since the night you saved my life. But this spot, Ronald gestured to the park around them. This is where I realized I wasn't just falling for you. I was falling for your whole life. Your daughter, your strength, your family. Everything. Jessica's eyes were starting to tear up. Ronald, what are you? He slid off the bench, dropping to one knee. Amara gasped. Jessica's hand flew to her mouth. I'm doing this wrong, Ronald said, pulling out a small velvet box. I should have asked Amara first. Asked if it was okay. You did ask me, Amara said, bouncing on her toes. Last week. You took me for ice cream and asked if I'd be okay with you marrying Mama. I said yes. Amara. Jessica was crying and laughing simultaneously. What? He asked. I answered. I want him to be my dad. Ronald opened the box. Inside was a ring, a simple, elegant diamond on a platinum band. Nothing ostentatious. Just perfect. Jessica Marie Williams, Ronald said, voice shaking slightly. 3 years ago, you saved my life in 6 minutes. You pulled me out of a wrecked car and promised I'd be okay. And you were right. Because finding you again led me here. To this moment. To this life. To you and Amara and a future I never imagined I could have. Tears streamed down Jessica's face. You're the strongest person I know. The bravest. The most stubborn, he smiled. But also the most loving. You taught me what real partnership looks like. What it means to show up for someone even when it's hard. What it means to be seen for who you really are and loved anyway. Jessica was openly sobbing now. Keisha had appeared from somewhere, probably had been in on this the whole time, recording everything on her phone. I love you, Ronald continued. I love your daughter. I love your mother. I love the life we're building together. And I want to spend the rest of my life showing you that some people don't leave. Some people stay. Some people fight for the ones they love, even when it's messy and complicated and scary. He held up the ring. So will you marry me? Will you let me be your partner, Amara's dad, and the man who gets to love you for the rest of our lives? Jessica couldn't speak. Could barely breathe. She just nodded, over and over, until she finally choked out, yes. Yes, of course yes. Ronald slipped the ring on her finger, a perfect fit, and stood, pulling her into his arms. She kissed him while Amara cheered and Keisha hooped and tourists in the park applauded. When they pulled apart, Amara launched herself at both of them, wrapping her arms around their waists. Does this mean you're my dad now? She asked Ronald. If you want me to be. I do. Can I call you Dad? Ronald's voice was thick with emotion. I would be honored. Jessica held them both, her daughter and her fiancé, and felt something she hadn't felt in years, complete certainty. This was right. This was her family. This was home. I love you, she whispered to Ronald. I love you too. Both of you. Always. June 12, 2025, 3 p.m. The wedding was small. Intimate. Perfect. Magnolia Plantation's gardens were in full bloom, azaleas and roses and ancient oaks dripping with Spanish moss. 50 guests sat in white chairs arranged on the lawn, Trent and his wife Simone, Keisha and her family, colleagues from Charleston Fire and Rescue, friends from Ronald's company, members of Jessica's church. Diane sat in the front row, lucid and smiling, wearing her favorite purple dress. She'd had a good morning. A gift. Amara was the flower girl, taking her role with utmost seriousness. She wore a white dress with a lavender sash and scattered rose petals like she was performing surgery, precise, focused, perfect. And then Jessica appeared. She wore a simple ivory dress, fitted and elegant, with her natural curls crowned by a small tiara of flowers. She carried a bouquet of gardenias, her father's favorite flower. Ronald forgot how to breathe. She walked down the aisle alone, chose to, because she'd gotten herself here. But when she reached him at the altar, she took his offered hand, and they stood together. The officiant spoke about love and partnership, about finding each other against impossible odds, about building families from choice and commitment. Then it was time for vows. Ronald went first, hands shaking slightly as he held hers. Jessica, 3 years ago tonight, I crashed my car fleeing a life that wasn't mine. I was lost, broken, bleeding in a ditch. And you appeared. You promised me I'd be okay. You saved my life in 6 minutes. But you've spent every day since teaching me what it means to truly live. His voice cracked. He pushed through. You've shown me what strength looks like. What bravery means. What it feels like to be loved for exactly who I am, flaws, past mistakes, obsessive searching for paramedics I barely knew. Laughter rippled through the guests. You've given me a daughter who asks impossible questions about robot brains and calls me Dad. You've given me a family, a purpose, a reason to be better every single day. He squeezed her hands. I promise to be your partner in everything. To fight for us when things get hard. To respect your strength while offering my support. To love Amara as my own. To show up, every day, for the rest of our lives. To prove that some people don't leave. I'm staying, Jessica. Forever. Jessica was crying, mascara running, not caring at all. She took a shaky breath and began her own vows. Ronald Gary, you are the most stubborn, persistent, ridiculously romantic man I've ever met. More laughter. You searched for me for 3 years. Hired investigators. Attended soccer games. Learned to braid hair from YouTube videos when Amara asked. Ronald grinned, unashamed. You saw me at my worst, scared, pushing you away, convinced everyone leaves. And you stayed anyway. You fought for me even when I fought against you. You loved my daughter before you had any obligation to. You respected my independence while offering your strength. You showed me that asking for help isn't weakness. It's trust. Her voice steadied. I promise to let you in, even when I'm scared. To be your partner, not just someone you take care of. To build a life together where we both show up, both support, both love with everything we have. I promise to believe you when you say you're staying. Because I'm staying too. For all of it. Forever. The officiant smiled. By the power vested in me by the state of South Carolina, I now pronounce you husband and wife. Ronald, you may kiss your bride. Ronald cupped Jessica's face, wiping away her tears with his thumbs. I love you, he whispered. I love you too. He kissed her, tender and deep and full of promises kept and futures beginning. When they pulled apart, Amara was there, wrapping her arms around both of them. Their first moment as a legally recognized family. The guests erupted in applause. Jessica looked at her new husband, her daughter, her mother watching with joy, her best friend crying happy tears in the front row. She looked at the life she'd built, the one she'd almost been too scared to accept. And she felt grateful. For wrecked cars and 6-minute rescues and men stubborn enough to search for 3 years. For second chances and hard conversations and learning to let people in. For love that stayed. Epilogue, June 12, 2026. 1 year later, Jessica stood in the kitchen of their new home, a beautiful historic house in downtown Charleston with enough space for all of them. Diane had her own suite on the first floor with round-the-clock care. Amara had a bedroom painted her favorite color with shelves full of science books Ronald kept buying her. And Jessica had a life she'd never imagined possible. Mama. Dad says we're going to the accident spot for your anniversary dinner. Is that weird? Amara called from upstairs. Jessica smiled. Every year on June 12, they went to Highway 17. Laid flowers at the roadside memorial. Remembered the night that changed everything. Not weird, baby. It's tradition. Ronald appeared in the kitchen doorway, still in his work clothes from Gary Technologies, tie loosened. He crossed to her, wrapping his arms around her waist from behind, pressing a kiss to her neck. Hi, wife. Hi, husband. She leaned back against him. How was work? Good. Closed the deal with the Seattle Fire Department. Our dispatch system will be in 40 cities by next year. You're changing the world. We're changing it. The first responder initiative was built on what you taught me. He turned her to face him. I have something for you. Ronald, you're not supposed to get gifts for. He handed her an envelope. Open it. Inside was a letter. From the EMT Association of South Carolina. A commendation for her years of service. And a scholarship announcement, the Marcus Williams Memorial Scholarship for Emergency Medical Services, funded by the Gary Foundation. Named after her father. Jessica's hands trembled. Ronald. It'll fund training for aspiring EMTs and paramedics. Full ride, tuition, books, equipment, everything. First scholarship goes out next month. Your father saved lives. Now his legacy will train others to do the same. She was crying. Again. She cried a lot more now, happy tears, grateful tears. Tears from being so full of love she couldn't contain it. Thank you, she whispered. It's perfect. You're perfect. He kissed her forehead. Ready for our anniversary dinner? At a crash site? So romantic. Hey, it worked out pretty well for us. Amara thundered down the stairs, now 9 years old and growing so fast it hurt. Can we stop for ice cream after? We literally just had lunch, Jessica said. But it's your anniversary. Everything's special on anniversaries. Ronald laughed. She's got a point. You're both ridiculous. But you love us. Jessica looked at her husband and her daughter, her family, chosen and built and fought for, and felt that familiar overwhelming gratitude. Yeah, she said softly. I really do. They drove to Highway 17 as the sun set over Charleston. Laid flowers at the memorial. Stood together at the spot where a playboy billionaire had wrecked his car fleeing the wrong life and a paramedic had saved him in 6 minutes. Where everything had begun. What are you thinking? Ronald asked, arm around Jessica's shoulders. She looked up at him, this man who'd searched for 3 years, who'd fought for their love, who'd proven that some people stay. I'm thinking about how 6 minutes changed everything, Jessica said. How I almost let fear keep me from this. From you. From us. But you didn't. But I didn't. She rose on her toes, kissing him as the sun painted the sky gold and pink. Best 6 minutes of my life. Mine too. Amara made a face. You guys are so mushy. Can we get ice cream now? They laughed, piling back into the car, Ronald driving, Jessica in the passenger seat, Amara chattering in the back about her upcoming science fair project. A family. Built from a crash and a rescue and 6 minutes that became forever. Jessica reached over, taking Ronald's hand. He squeezed back, eyes on the road, smile on his face. Some love stories start in the most unlikely places. Some people spend years searching for what they didn't know they needed. Some promises, like, "You're going to be okay," turn out to be prophecies. And some people, despite every reason to be afraid, choose to stay. Jessica Williams and Ronald Gary had found each other in the wreckage. And they'd built something beautiful from the broken pieces. Forever. Did Ronald and Jessica's love story touch your heart? Drop a heart in the comments if you believe in second chances and love that refuses to give up. And if you know someone who needs to hear this story today, someone who's afraid to let love in, share this with them. Sometimes we all need a reminder that the right person will stay. Subscribe for more stories that will make you believe in love again.